let's talk about one of the most incredible financial comeback stories you're likely to see. We're looking at Charisma Energy Services, a company that was, not too long ago, just teetering on the edge of complete collapse. But their latest financial report? It tells a totally different story. So how does a company go from nearly dead to posting a massive profit? Let's get into it.
Okay, this is the number that turned everyone's head. $41.5 million US dollars. That's the net profit Charisma Energy reported for the first 9 months of 2025. Now, for a company that was in such deep trouble just a year ago, a number this big, it seems almost unbelievable. It screams that something huge, something fundamental has changed. But to really get a sense of just how big this turnaround is, you have to see where they were just 1 year prior.
And here it is, plain as day. The same 9-month period in 2024, Charisma Energy didn't make a profit at all. They booked a net loss of over $1.2 million. So we're not talking about a little bump in the right direction. We're talking about a mind-boggling swing of almost $43 million from deep in the red to well into the black. That is a complete 180.
Right, so this is the big question, isn't it? How on earth did they do it? Was it some massive new contract? A revolutionary piece of tech? Well, the real answer is a bit more complex. And honestly, it's a fascinating story about financial engineering and just pure corporate survival. So let's peel back the layers, and we're going to start with just how bad things really were. Before all the headlines about this giant profit, there was a period of, well, extreme distress. To really appreciate the comeback, you first have to understand the crisis. And at the end of the 2024 financial year, Charisma Energy was, to put it lightly, right on the brink of going under.
I mean, just look at the sheer weight of this debt. By the end of 2024, the company's total liabilities were over $72 million. And you can see the two biggest culprits right here, $54 million owed to suppliers and partners, and another $16.5 million in things like secured loans. This was a mountain of debt they were trying to climb. And that mountain of debt led to this, a net liability position. Now, that's a fancy accounting term, but what it means is actually very simple and very, very serious. It means the company owed more money than the total value of everything it owned, all its assets, its power plants, you name it. They were underwater by almost $51 million. Simply put, the company was technically insolvent.
So when you're facing insolvency, what do? Well, Charisma didn't just throw in the towel. They launched a radical, super aggressive plan to completely reset their finances. This wasn't about making small changes around the edges. This was like full-on financial surgery to save the patient.
And you can see the official jargon for it right here in their own report. They call it a restructuring exercise. This was basically the blueprint for their survival, a complex set of moves designed to completely wipe the slate clean and give the company a fresh start. The whole complicated plan really boils down to 3 key steps. First, you've got to get new cash in the door. So they secured a new major investor. Second, you have to deal with that massive pile of old debt. They did this with something called a scheme of arrangement, which is basically a huge negotiation with everyone you owe money to. And third, they tidied up the company's stock with a share consolidation. Those 3 moves were the core of this whole financial reset.
And this number, this is the golden ticket. This is the direct result of that reset. Remember that second step, the big deal with the creditors? Well, it resulted in a one-time gain from debt forgiveness of $42.1 million. Let that sink in. Their creditors agreed to just forgive or write off over $42 million that they were owed. That right there is the single biggest reason for that massive $41.5 million profit we saw at the beginning.
So, with the old debt pretty much gone and new money in the bank, the company's books look completely different. But, when you take a closer look, you start to see some really important details. That big headline profit number, it doesn't quite tell the whole story about the actual business.
And here's where things get really interesting, because it kind of goes against the grain of that big profit number. While the profit went through the roof, the company's actual revenue from its main business, selling energy, it actually went down. It dropped from $5 million in 2024 to just over $4 million in 2025. And the report says this was because of less rainfall for their hydro plants and lower prices for their energy.
But on the other hand, here's the undeniably good news from this reset. Just look at the company's cash situation. They went from just $200,000 in the bank at the end of 2024 to almost $11 million by September 2025. I mean, that is a night and day difference. The company now has fuel in the tank to actually operate and invest in its future.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. That incredible $41.5 million profit, it wasn't an operational win. It didn't happen because they sold a ton more power or got way more efficient. It was the result of a one-time accounting gain from wiping out debt. It's a paper profit. It's a second chance for sure, but it's not a sign that the business itself is booming yet.
Which brings us to the final and really the most important question, what's next? This whole financial reset has given Charisma Energy a clean slate, a new lease on life. But the future is anything but guaranteed.
The company itself lays out a pretty balanced view. On the plus side, there's a new solar power plant project in the works, and they expect their existing hydro plants to keep bringing in cash. But they also flag some major risks. Weather forecasts are calling for less rainfall, which would directly hit their hydro business. The wider economy in Sri Lanka is getting better, but it's still shaky. And of course, there's always the risk that a plant could break down unexpectedly.
And so this is where Charisma Energy's story really is today. They have pulled off this masterclass in financial engineering to escape what looked like certain doom. They've got a healthy balance sheet, they've got cash in the bank, and they have new projects on the horizon. But now, the truly hard part begins. The question isn't about survival anymore, it's about growth. Can the actual day-to-day business of making and selling energy deliver the real, sustainable profits that this incredible second chance promises? Well, only time is going to tell.